to, whether they've been photographed or not, who've either are of, sons or daughters of people who migrated over here maybe in the 50s or the 60s, or they've arrived from somewhere else. There is this sense that there's almost like a third person within them, or even a fourth, depending on how many parts they're made up of. And it seems, and at first I thought hybrid was actually, it sounded like it was a rude word to use in this context, but the more and more I've gone into, more and more actually no, it is the exact right word is the word hybrid. We are pretty much all of us hybrids in some way, to lesser or greater degrees. And that was quite a fascinating discovery in the process of just talking to people and then photographing them and then, finding out about those feelings, because I just thought, am I the only person who feels like this? But then you realise that's not the case. Yeah.
Just to go in a different direction, I really like what you seem to be saying about using photography to express poems. So I am a poet, I'm a performing poet, and I'm just beginning to learn to be a photographer. So that concept that you've got there is brand new and something that I want to take up immediately and go with as part of my photography career.
Great. Well, I think you'll find it quite a rich vein to tap then.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I haven't ever seen that anymore.
No, it's been one of the joys of MA is the sort of discussions you get into with your tutors, and you begin to sort of suddenly things come into your mind and think, actually, this is a bit like this, and then you have someone to bounce that idea back off, and they go, yes, go for it. Just because you've not seen that necessarily described in this way in the commercial field or whatever, just follow that and see where it takes you.
It's lovely, really.
Which is very similar to writing in a sense, isn't it? You don't, don't always know where you're going to end up. You think you do, but the journey takes you that way. So.
Never know where I'm going to end up.
Jeff, are you going to ask something?
I was just going to say, you say each picture is a word. Do you come in with a word? You choose the word first, or you? Sometimes
the word, comes to me after I've sat down and started doing the edit. Sometimes the picture doesn't mean anything, and then I go away for 2 weeks and I do a whole lot of other stuff, and I come back and I go, oh, suddenly that. It's a bit like the image of the 5 people looking out to sea. I kind of dismissed it, but then suddenly it had a sensation of belonging within it, which I hadn't quite picked up on the first time I photographed it, and then it became part of the sentence and part of the lexicon. It's almost like I'm building a lexicon of images that I can pick and choose
I'd like to see it how you've got it in whole of, as an exhibition on the wall.
Here you go.
Yeah, but in person, it's very nice. Yeah.
I think because it's not confined there, is it?
No.
Sort of rectangle.
That's right, and maybe that's why I suddenly, when I saw it on the wall, I thought, actually, this isn't the beginning. I don't quite know if it's the middle or the end yet. I'm not sure. I don't think it'll change. I'm pretty sure that this sequence is a sequence now. It's a sentence, and it's quite slow. It is quite, like I like writing, a bit torturous at times. You think, oh, what am I doing? And is this making any sense? A lot of people say, why is that there? We don't get it. And I'm like, you decide. I'm not, I know what it means to me, but I don't want to dictate how you should receive the work necessarily. I know what I'm talking about as a theme, and I can express that to you in words, but in terms of the visual impact, I'd rather, people have said many things about this image, and it's quite interesting because it's a non-photographic image, even though it's a photograph of a non-photographic image, it sort of holds quite a lot of power, and it throws the sentence into somewhere else, and I quite like that. It has a little bit of a sort of aesthetic, not violence, but it just jolts people out and going, what's going on?
I think the good thing about using different media, so photography or whatever, is that different people can access things. I know myself, I'm quite visual and sometimes find it quite difficult to sort of take things on, listening.
Yeah.
I have to see it, read it. And so visually, when you have different media expressing ideas, and it's always evolving, isn't it? You read a poem once, then you read it again, and it always grows, and it's an interaction between you and them.
Yeah, my problem is knowing when to stop tinkering and just leave it.
You want it
that's
to be
the
finished.
sequence. Yeah,
It's finished.
that's usually where I've got about
Maybe
6 or
it
7
never is.
different.
Maybe that's the whole thing.
Well, possibly not. That's true. I have got to finish something though, because I've got to have a final major project done by this time next year. So I know that there's going to be a definite.
Being on the left, has writing on it?
This has
Is that an
basically,
important part of
it has that on.
seeing the photos? Is it a
does-
necessary part of seeing that sequence?
Personally, I don't think so. But I know that when you're, at an exhibition, it can be useful for people who perhaps don't normally view photography, especially work that's perhaps less descriptive or prescriptive than they might be used to seeing in terms of images. So I guess it's more to help people that, interestingly, in the space that we're in, the way people have been going around the room, they've actually come to my work from the opposite direction, if you see what I mean.
Right,
So
yes.
they've come to it from this direction,
Reading
so
it
they don't
backwards,
see that
okay. Yeah.
until the end. So that's quite nice. So that maybe that should be at the end, not the beginning. I mean, the other thing about obviously all this, it's still a process. Even though it's on a wall, it's not fixed. It's still, I'm still going. Okay, well I know that maybe there needs to be a real mirror somewhere. Maybe some of this should be more physical than it is. Maybe that doesn't need to be there. Maybe it needs to be there. So. But I think it does help some people sometimes. Yeah, just because the work's more ambiguous than some photography they may be used to. I don't know. But I'd like to think it would stand up without that in some way. It would still speak without that there. Yeah. Any more? I'll disappear if not.
Can I just do you have a sense of the response just from different audiences? I mean, if we have you a clear response from someone who recognises that in some way as part of a refugee experience, for example, or
Not necessarily a refugee experience. I have had the hybrid experience. People have responded to it in that way. I haven't been up in Hull long enough to know what kind of response there's been so far. It's interesting to see people engage with it physically rather than on a screen. So obviously when I'm editing, it ends up being like that, And so I might present that to some of my tutors, and they'll respond in a specific way. So far, all very positive, which has been great. So, like I said, really, in terms of its physical journey into the world, I'm right at the beginning, and I'm curious to know what the response might be. I don't know how we quantify that at Hull, really. We don't, I guess, do we?
No, it could be the problem with photography generally.
I mean, there is sort of visual overkill. It's quite, it's a lot of imagery around, but
How do you get people to engage with your work? I mean, that may be the problem with art as a whole.
Talk to them, invite them. When I was particularly looking at that,